So, update on the Moses Hacmon reality television series. YouTuber Chloe Rosemary actually uploaded the entire first episode, and I want to react to just Moses' segments and talk a little bit about his interactions on the show. For one, you can see here, this is Moses on the right side holding his daughter, his baby daughter, and even the baby daughter's face is blurred. So remember, Trisha's face is going to be blurred, which you can see here. This must be her because she's the only blur in the photo, and then the baby's also blurred. So it's interesting that Trisha requested not only herself to be blurred, but her child to be blurred too. But Moses is not blurred, as you can see here. Moses is not blurred. So Moses definitely doesn't have the same concerns as Trisha does about a possible cancellation, and he just wants the clout and the recognition for appearing on the television show, and it doesn't matter what the cost is. This lines up with what Ethan Klein said before, where Ethan said, well, Moses isn't going to blur his face because Moses wants the clout. Moses is a clout demon. It is true that Moses has always sought out fame, and this is his way of getting it. Now, I want to talk about something funny. I don't think I'm going to show the actual footage because I'm not sure about the authorization of that, so I'm just going to react to still caps instead. I'm already cringing out to this show because they start talking about how these people who came from Israel are now living in Beverly Hills and are successful in California. Like one of the guys works with celebrities, one of the women is a fashion designer, the other man is a really successful businessman. And then a second later, they say, in walks Moses, and Moses kind of has nothing to show for himself. His only claim to fame is being married to Trisha Paytas, which is a YouTube influencer who, yeah, she's very successful, but it's not his story, it's her story. So it's just kind of cringy and embarrassing. Like, I'm getting secondhand embarrassment to see him walking into a room of very successful, high profile people in the industry or in their own industry, and then he kind of doesn't have anything to show for himself other than being married to a successful woman and being related to a successful woman. Like, it even says that Moses quietly enters, like he just quietly enters this practical like business meeting. It's not really a business meeting, but you know what I mean. Like, there's very important people he's walking into the room with, and then it's just Moses. Like, his claim to fame is being the spouse of a successful woman and a brother of another successful woman. And even the way that people react to him when he walks into the room is they're like, he walks so gently, he's so quiet, he's so shy. Because Moses is not much of a speaker. He's never been much of a speaker. You can even see that if you watch the Moses deep dive series we're doing. He doesn't speak much. It's just Trisha doing most of the talking and Moses occasionally like agreeing. So I wonder how he's going to hold up in this reality show. Now, it's interesting that the show describes him as an artist and designer with quite a few followers, but it doesn't really say how many. And it just says he's an artist and designer, but that isn't his claim to fame. Moses' claim to fame isn't being an artist and designer. He's never popped off because of that. He popped off solely based off who he was related to, Eli Klein, and who he was married to, Trisha Paytas. Now, one of the co-stars in the reality show asks him who he's married to. They say, are you married to an American or are you married to an Israeli? And he says, I'm married to an American. And then that's when the topic of Trisha comes up. And it's interesting that the show goes out of its way to tell you exactly how many followers she has, as opposed to not telling you how many Moses had. It tells you that she has 8 million on TikTok and over 1 billion views on YouTube, but they don't mention any of that for Moses. Now, they don't even show her, they just show an outline figure of her, like a silhouette that's meant to represent her, because remember, she didn't want to be associated with a reality show now that she's so mainstream in America. Before, she wasn't mainstream in America, and this reality show was one of the only ones that would accept her. Now that she's becoming big, she doesn't want the association, so she's asked them to blur her and her child's face from the entire production. As you can see here, they show a picture of Moses with their baby, and they're blurring the baby's face. I just find it very interesting that they chose to blur the daughter's face and Trisha's face. Although you can see her sister Callie's face here in the background. But yeah, they're just showing Moses. I guess they're maybe going to try to spin this into an anonymous an anonymous, mysterious edge since she doesn't want to be on the show anymore. Now, right off the bat, something interesting is one of the co-stars says this about Moses. He says, "My personal opinion about Moses, you can't suddenly have an American accent. The last name is Hackman. Hawkman. It turned into Hackman. Hackman is fake because Moses likes to pronounce his last name Hawkman as Hackman, which is a more Americanized version of it. So this other co-star on the reality show is kind of judging Moses, and it sounds like he's upset that Moses is trying to be so American. And it's interesting because Moses just said a second ago, he said that he feels more connected to Israel because of Trisha, that he has an overall stronger connection to it because of Trisha's love for Israel, and that he didn't have that same kind of love. It's basically what he's saying. And yeah, this co-star is basically calling him out like, why are you trying to Americanize your last name, or why are you trying to be so distant? Why do you not why are you trying to have an American accent? Um, I don't think Moses does have an American accent. I mean, there's really no such thing as an American accent because there's so many accents in America. But what the guy is trying to say is that Moses is trying to downplay his Israeli roots. Wow, you guys, this guy actually goes in kind of hard on him. So this co-star says, this is about Moses he's talking about. He says he left the herd. There's a herd of buffalo, and the buffalo suddenly wants to hang out with the herd of Bambi. You can run with them. You can jump with them. You can. Just don't make a mistake. You're still a buffalo. That's what he's saying. So he's saying that Moses is a buffalo. He's saying, Moses, you're Israeli. You're trying so hard to be American. You want to disassociate from what you are. He says, but at the end of the day, you're always going to be Israeli. That's what this guy is saying. This guy seems to be calling Moses out for the fact that Moses has come to America and has tried to disassociate with his Israeli roots, which is true. Moses did do that. Moses did come over here and he's tried to distance himself from the Israeli culture. The only reason he was even on this reality show, kind of like he just said a second ago and prior, is that his wife wanted him to be on this show. His wife wanted them to be on this show and to be on a reality show, period. So they took this avenue. This guy kind of seems to be calling out Moses by saying he's fake for wanting to Americanize himself and step away from what he is. Now, another interesting part is somebody comes in with a instrument and starts to sing an Israeli song, and they all just immediately start dancing and singing happily. Moses doesn't seem to be as energetic or into it as they are, but he's trying. He's just very shy. And the guy who's holding his hand, this guy here in the leather jacket, is like Moses, join, because he sees that Moses is kind of reluctant. And this guy also who tries to get him to join also seemed a little bit reluctant about Moses because he was the one who was saying Moses walks so gently. He's so shy. He's so like soft. They all kind of seem, well, the two women haven't shared their opinion yet, but the two men seem to be a little bit cautious of Moses. Like they both seem to just be a little bit off about him, which I find interesting. So like I just said, this guy is like kind of sus about Moses. Like he's on his way to Moses' house right now, and he says, Moses' story, like something is going to be revealed there that I don't understand yet. It was very interesting for me to meet Moses. Like he just seems off about Moses. Like he's like, there's just something about Moses. I don't understand it. And the other guy doesn't understand Moses either. I find it very interesting that both of the men are so sus of Moses like immediately. But let's see how the interaction at Moses' house goes. So they show Moses' house, and Moses and Trisha's house. It's going to be on full display. The guy just said he hopes when he gets here he'll understand Moses more. He seems like he just doesn't get why Moses is on the show, to be honest. Like both of the guys just seem like they don't really understand Moses. Also, the entire show is in Hebrew. The captions are in English, but that's because I believe Chloe Rose Marie captioned the entire show. I believe. So that's why we're able to watch this. But again, if you want to watch it, go on her channel. I'm not gonna just play her footage. So this is why I'm reacting in stills. Ooh, interesting. So they actually acknowledge why Trisha was removed from the show. The narrator starts to say like, because the guy's knocking on the door, and then the narrator's like, "Oh, I expected Trisha up in the door," but then the narrator says, "So unfortunately, it turns out that we are forced to part ways with Trisha, who, following the has to disappear from the program. The desire to boycott everything Israeli is part of what Israelis around the world have to deal with these days, but the show must go on." So they seem to be a little bit like kind of taking a little bit of a dick at her there, where they're saying she's doing exactly what everyone else does to Israelis. That's what the narrator is saying. What's interesting about this though is that we did a video prior where I showed you that Trisha was saying the same thing. Trisha was saying, I don't understand why people have to not be associated with Israelis. I don't understand why people are so weird about wanting to just proudly claim that they're Team Israel. This is what she said. So now she herself is removing herself because, like I said before, she's gone mainstream now, and now she cannot have the association. She didn't care before when she had nothing to lose, but now that she has something to lose, she cares. But it's interesting that the show called her out on it. Oh my god, you guys, the narrator said the show must go on. We will simply delete her like an X from photos on Facebook. And as you can see, Moses answers the door, but so does Trisha and the baby. You won't be able to see them though because it looks like they edited her out, but you do see like edges of them at some points. So when the guy walks in, he's immediately hit with a lot of Jewish items. So there was like a photo, like a big old poster of Jerusalem, and then there was these little items like a Star of David purse, I believe that's a purse, and then a nice Jewish boy cup. And then the guy is saying like she knows what she's doing there. There's a lot of merchandise there. Like he seems a little bit like taken aback by walking into the house, and it's just like completely um in your face about it. The guy literally relates it to living in a horror house. He goes, "It's almost like you're filming a horror movie here." And then he goes, "It's very interesting that they live here." So yeah, there's like subtle little digs from the co-stars about Moses particularly. So I'm a little bit unclear about this part, but the this guy says the story here is developing around Moses and Trisha. The girl has millions of followers, and that can really help us with everything we're trying to do. For Israel, it's clear to me that I must introduce her to the girls. I'll fly over her, but I'll fly over more than the series. I'm not sure what he means by this because I'm not really sure. Like, obviously, I'm just reading the English captions. I don't really know like the entire context, but it does sound like he's saying that he understands now more why Moses is on the show because his wife is very famous and very successful, and he believes that Trisha's wealth and success could possibly help Israel. Is what it sounds like he's saying, and he's saying he wants to introduce her to the cast members of the show, like the girl cast members of the show, because Moses, as the main cast member for the males, like doesn't really do anything because he doesn't have a lot of influence. But Trisha is an influencer, so he kind of wants to bring her into the main focus. But I believe that's going to be hard now that they have to blur her and cut her out. So his whatever plan he had kind of didn't work out so much because like I'm sure she appreciated in the beginning because she really wanted to be on the show. I'm sure she appreciated being brought in as a main character, but now that they have to edit her out, I'm sure that's a hassle for them. Now, as you can see here, the girls get their own segment where they go to hang out. So it's the two main women co-stars and then the wife of one of the male co-stars. And then you have Trisha here, which she's now pixelated and blurred out. Before she arrives, the women are speaking and they're saying, "We'll have to speak English now so she can, so she can understand us, um, and not, be out of the loop." And the narrator is about to say that they have to pixelate Trisha now. So let's see. Says Trisha dressed in pink pixels even before she competed and won us over. Now, one thing that's interesting to me is that Trisha enters the car with the women and they all start discussing how they met their husbands, or a couple of them do, but Trisha doesn't mention hers. I wonder if they just cut out her story. They do keep her voice in. You can hear her speaking and commenting on other people's stories and getting along with the women. She even is the one who suggests that they pop up in a bottle of champagne. They all are getting along. They even, when she first enters the car, they go, "Wow, she's very pink." Like they all seem to like kind of accept her. They're just kind of blown away by her fashion choices. But the vibe's good. The vibe's nice. I wonder if they cut out her story when she met Moses though, because they did two other women's stories and then they just didn't do hers at all. Now this is interesting. Trisha went away on a girls' trip with the girls, and then Moses stayed behind with the other male co-star. And it's interesting because the narrator says, "Behind every Moses Hacmon hides a Moshe Hacmon." So they're kind of again pointing out the fact that he acts Americanized but is actually Israeli, and I feel like they're about to get into that some more because they keep seeming to point out how Americanized he wants to be. Now, the co-star even says, Moses, I connected with him the least because he hides his connection to Israel. So this guy doesn't like the fact that Moses doesn't embrace his Israeli roots, which is interesting because Moses is on the Israeli reality show, and he's the one not blurring his face. Also, I find it kind of funny that Trisha's even blurring her face because we all know it's her, and like I said before, she defended wanting to be on it in the first place. So I feel like blurring herself and trying to be disassociated, trying to not be connected to it now, just seems kind of ridiculous. Now, here's an interesting moment where the co-star he brings up this memory from childhood and he goes, oh, when I used to be sick, my grandmother would rub this product on my stomach. And he goes, you remember that, right, Moses? Like, you remember, like, he's trying to draw him back to his roots. Then he goes, I'm trying to draw you back to your roots here. And then Moses says, no, there's nothing to draw me back to. Like, I think Moses is picking up on the fact that this guy is iffy about him. And Moses is trying to say, I am what I am. Like, you don't need to bring me back to my roots. Like, I know who I am. But then this guy says, no, you got American. You've become American. Even your accent, your accent, that's what you absorb. It's interesting that he says that because Moses still does have an Israeli accent. He just speaks English now because he learned English and he's around English speakers, so he speaks English all the time. But this guy is trying to say that Moses is trying to hide his Israeli roots. What's interesting about this, though, you guys, is that he's not wrong. Moses has tried to hide his Israeli roots for a long time. That's why I said before he doesn't identify, or he didn't. He didn't identify as Jewish. He said he wanted to get out of Israel as fast as he can. He didn't want to be associated with it. But then he puts himself on an Israeli reality show strictly for fame and clout. Like, he doesn't even really like being associated with it, yet he wants to be on the show to get his face out there more and to kind of be a main star of something. So it is interesting that this guy is calling him out for things that are true because Moses does want to not be associated. So he's probably like, well, why are you on the show then? Is my guess. So Moses defends himself here and he says, I didn't know I had an accent until they told me I had an accent. Um, Again, yeah, that I can see what he's saying because anyone who's watched the Moses series or who has watched Moses at all knows that Moses has an Israeli accent. But apparently, to this Israeli man, he feels like Moses sounds more Americanized. So Moses says in the English language, there is a certain melody that doesn't exist in the Hebrew language. So either you speak English with a heavy Hebrew accent like that, or if you play the words, you use it when you speak Hebrew. So I speak 99% of the time. There's no problem. Okay, I wonder actually, you guys, if this guy is saying that I wonder if this guy is saying that Moses' American accent. I wonder if this guy is saying that Moses' Hebrew speaking is coming with an American accent. I wonder if that's what he means. He's saying that Moses has lost some Hebrew dialect or Hebrew way of speaking. Yeah, this guy is definitely shaming Moses for being Americanized. So this guy keeps saying, um, Moses is too Americanized. Moses is too Americanized. He is not embracing his Israeli roots. So Moses says, I felt that Yakir was judging me. Why do I choose to have an accent? Because I want to be American. Why do I want to be American? Because I don't like being Israeli. I think it's the complete opposite. I think he wants to be American, but he can't, so he doesn't like those who are. So Moses is judging this guy back, and Moses is being kind of petty, and Moses is saying, he's not mad that I'm not Israeli enough. He's mad that he can't be as American as I can be. So Moses is kind of turning the tables and saying, it's him. He's just jealous that he can't be as Americanized as me. Therefore, he's getting mad that I'm not as Israeli as him. That's Moses' mentality. So the Moses and the other co-star are clearly butting heads. Now, the women and Trisha's over here. She's in the back. It looks like she's dressed like Winnie the Pooh. So the one of the male co-stars and his husband or boyfriend, they all gift the women with these jumpers, like these onesies of different cartoon characters and animals, and it looks like they gave Trisha Winnie the Pooh, but they give everyone their moment to shine, but they don't give it to Trisha because I think they edited it out because again, remember she doesn't want to be associated with the show. So you could just see her on the side, but it looks like she's dressed like Winnie the Pooh and she's having a great time with them. Okay, now the narrator says Trisha, who has already regretted her very participation in the series, reveals a few more regrets in life. And no, I'm not talking about wearing a zebra print crop top after the age of 30, but about her past in the adult world and a long-standing addiction to. So that's very weird that she just met them and she's already opening up about these alleged things. I personally believe that these are false stories that she's created, but it looks like she's already trying to share them to get sympathy from the new cast members. Honestly, it seemed like Trisha was more in the show than Moses was. They obviously cut her out. They edited her out a lot, and then they just blurred footage of her. But she had that whole moment where she opened up to them about her past, and they all felt connected to her. So it was like a big moment for her, which prompted another cast member to share his own story about coming out. So yeah, she was completely involved in the series. She even said later she connected to them like they were lifelong friends of hers, and now she's kind of just disassociating with them and acting like she doesn't want to be a part of it. She doesn't want to be a part of it, even though she literally defended her right to be the entire time it was filming. She was getting backlash originally. People were telling her that it wasn't a good idea. Even Ethan Klein said it's not a good idea, don't do it. And she defended her right to do it. She said she wasn't ashamed to support Israel. She said she was so sick of not being able to say she was Team Israel. She was so sick of people who didn't want to associate with Israel. She felt like it was unfair, and now she's doing exactly what she claimed before that she was against, even though she was literally never against it. And even you guys to this day, if she did not get Euphoria and Broadway and everything, she would happily be promoting the show. She knew what she was doing at the time. She's now trying to retroactively act as if she had no idea and she shouldn't have been on it, but she knew all along. And if she truly was against it and Moses was, then why would Moses still be showing his face on the reality show? It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, that was the first episode. I thought it was interesting that so many of the cast members didn't like Moses, but they seemed to accept Trisha. But yeah, they were so like sus of Moses instantly. Like they were thought Moses was shady, Moses was like fake. They thought it's just interesting that they picked up that vibe because in the Moses deep dive, I've been saying from the get go, not nothing related to this, but I've been saying from the get go that Moses presents a false image of himself to Trisha. So it's interesting that they thought he was presenting a false image of himself to them. So I wonder if Chloe Rosemary will continue to post the episodes. If she does, I will go ahead and keep reacting. If you guys want, let me know what you thought of me reacting to this. Let me know what you thought in general. Leave your comments below. As always, I read every single one of them.